Let's make a research on how different infills impact our swatches, specifically its flexibility. For that, I would like to show you how we can modify properties on multiple objects one by one. We can have different objects, different swatches on our plater, and every single one of the swatch can have each different settings. So as we are in the Prusa slicer, we have now here our swatch. And let's say that we want to create 9 swatches, all of them with different infills. So I'm going to click on the square and I'm going to copy using Command C or Control C if you are on your Windows, and Command V or Control V to paste it. So I'm going to click Command C, Command V, and then we have first copy, second, third, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if we click here on this arrange button, it will display and arrange all of the swatches, and all of the swatches can have different settings. How do we do that? Well, if I slice them now, then all of them have the rectilinear infill. Well, what if I want each of them to have absolutely different settings? So I'm going to click back to the editor and I'm going to right click and click on infill, which we already have selected, but just in case you lost it so you know where to find it. And if I have infill there, then I'm going to choose the infill to be not rectilinear, but let's say we want to try grid. Grid has the same structure as the rectilinear, but it's much more loose. So it has the same structure, it's still a net, but it's much more loose. It's a little bit stronger, but it's much more looser than the rectilinear. So if I click on if I click here on the sliced version, let me close the legend, then you can see that it's still a net or a mesh type, but it is much more loose. The rectilinear one is much more dense than the grid. So we can adjust that, or we can print it with the 15 and see what happens. And we're going to say that we want it to be a different fill pattern, and let's go with triangles. If I slice it now, then you can see that we will get a triangular structure. Oh, this angular structure. Usually triangles are, when we compare them to the rectilinear structure, much more loose as well, but they are not so flexible. They create the structure to be more like a sliding structure. You will see that when you print it, when you will try to move with the swatch, it will feel like it's sliding through the structure, through the pattern, because it's placed to be diagonal. Now, let's choose another one. Let me make that, we don't want that stars. Let's try cubic. And as you can see, if I click on cubic, then cubic have a very similar structure like triangles, but it's a little bit different because they're placed in the way that the small triangles are also being made in the middle of the crossing. So it also a little bit adjusts the way that the pattern behaves when you have your 3D printed textile. Let's move along. We are going to choose 3D honeycomb. 3D honeycomb feels and looks like a knitwear. It's not a perfect knitwear, but when you print it, it looks like something that is knitted. It makes it less flexible, so the structure is not so flexible, but it's very durable, very resistant. It's a very good structure when you are printing something that you want to be resistant. Then we are going to choose gyrate. It's one of the most used structures in the 3D printed textile community, unless you want to create a mesh. Because gyrate is very flexible. It's one of the most flexible ones. It's a very flexible structure because it's wavy and it creates these small cells that are squished. So you can move them very well. And it's quite durable. It's not as durable as the 3D honeycomb, but it takes less time, it's efficient, and it's better than the rectilinear structure. So if you want to, you can also try gyrate and make an little asterisk at the gyrate, because it's one of the most popular infill type to use to create 3D printed textile. Let's try stars. Stars are also very similar to the cubic ones, and they are laying the pattern as if you can see the multiple stars in there. And this structure, nice effect, but it's not so popular to be used to create 3D printed textile because it's not so flexible. It creates a little bit of resistance. Let me go back. One of the structures that is also very nice, but it's not completely closed structure, is aligned like rectilinear, and aligned rectilinears are just these lines, and you can create wonderful, very nice effects with them. For example, if you want to create a strappy top, then you would print out the aligned rectilinear structures, and then you would just cut out the perimeters, like the bottom perimeter, and then you will have straps that you can attach to a dress. If you look at it, then you can see that now the aligned rectilinear is positioned in 45 degrees, but you can change that actually, and I'm going to show you how to have a different infill angle. So let me go to add settings. Let's do that again. Add settings, infill, and I'm gonna select fill angle. And as I have fill angle, I can say that I want the fill angle to be 90. And now if I slice it, I have the lines perfectly straight and vertically aligned. You can do that with any pattern, with any structure. So for example, if you choose to change that within the rectilinear as well, let me show you how it looks like now. So it's crossing in 45 degrees, but if I click on add settings and add infill fill angle, then I can choose the fill angle to be 90 as well. And if I slice it now, then now you can see that it's perfectly aligned vertically and horizontally. Usually when you're printing fabrics, it depends on the purpose that it's serving, but usually our fabric, the traditional fabric, is printed in the way that it is aligned. The fibers are aligned vertically and horizontally inside of the fabric. So if you want it to resemble fabric as much as possible, then you would also like change the angle so it's printed aligned. But there are many reasons why you might choose not to do that, which I will show you in a different chapter. Let's also do normal honeycomb, which not the 3D one. It's not, the 3D honeycomb is layered, so it creates honeycombs when you look at it from the perspective from the Z layer. So it's very squished honeycombs, but the honeycomb pattern is quite tough and see-through. So it depends on the project, but mostly if we are trying to create a fabric that really resembles textile, then we wouldn't probably use that. Perfect. So now you can export it and save it to your computer on your SD card or send it via Wi-Fi and print it out as it is. If I click here to check, it will take about an hour. You don't have to experiment with every single infill. Choose the infills that you like, which is the most important, and test them. What you can do is also test the infill density. So instead of testing 3 different infills, you can also go with one infill and just changing their density. So instead of having multiple infill patterns, you will have 4 rectilinears, but with different densities. So you'll have the first one will be with density of 15, the second one will be of density of 25, 30, 40, or 15, 30, 45, 60. And you can also check how flexible they are if you print them out. Perfect. Feel free to create your swatches with the favorite infills that you would like. Print them out, write down all of the properties that you have found out, and let's move to another research part.